Okay, welcome back to part 2 of our color wheel assignment. So I don't have the means to show you all of those options right now or examples of how to do them, but I think the slideshow is pretty clear on how to accomplish this. But I would like to talk a little bit about some of the materials if you are choosing these. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about using paint. I am going to be talking about how to use colored pencils and how to use crayons. If you are using any of those materials, keep watching. Everybody else, if you are going to be using sidewalk chalk and making an edible color wheel using frosting and cookies or whipped cream and cookies or whatever you have, or if you're going to be making your own paint, and going outside to do this and taking photos of it, then all I want you to do is watch the first part where I show you how to make the wheel, okay? And then you can stop this and you can watch my bonus value video later, how to make value with paint. If you are going to be using paint on a piece of paper, paint you made or paint that you already have, or if you're going to be using crayons or colored pencils, please keep watching. So I'm using a lid to trace a circle shape, okay? Or anything you have could work, but please use things that are there to help us make our art neater. I do want to say a couple of things before we get started. That neatness is important to me. Craftsmanship is going to be a big part of how I start to grade you on this, and there will be a rubric posted as well. Okay, and yeah, also the order of the color wheel as well. Okay, so make sure you use that Google Slides to help you. I have a book, and I'm going to show you how to divide your paper up as evenly as possible. So as I mentioned before, there are 12 sections in a color wheel. When I make my sections, I like to start with an X. Now I have 4 sections, okay? Let me flip this around so you can see it from my angle. I have 4 sections, okay? Sorry about the camera issues again. So within these 4 sections, if I want to make 12, what's 12 divided by 4? Hopefully you just said 3. My husband, who's a math teacher, will be so proud that I'm covering some math as well. So I want to make 3 sections within each of these. So what I like to do is I just kind of eye this. I put dots, okay? And these dots are rough, ooh, that's kind of wide on that one, are rough estimates of how I'm going to measure from here to the center. So I'm doing 2 dots because that will give me 1, 2, 3 sections. Okay, so I'm going to use my book again. I'm going to line up my dot right to the center there. Okay, so now I have 1, 2, 3 sections in there. One, here's the side of the book. Remember, I hope you're still watching, even if you're doing the edible color wheel or the outside one, okay? Because you still need to do it in the correct order, all right? If you are not able to follow along with this tutorial, I recommend what's so great about me making a video is you can watch it back. So if you're struggling on watching me complete this, why don't you pause it, rewind it, see what I did again. If you struggle the second time, keep doing that. That is a positive about this, me making videos, is that if you miss something the first time, you can rewind it and try again. Okay, so let's go ahead and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Perfect. I did my math right. Like a clock, too. That's another way to think of it as well. Okay, now the next thing you want to do is you want to label it. So you definitely want to maybe Google search a color wheel or open up that Google slide again. Okay, here's our color wheel here, but I usually just use the initial of the letter. I've got yellow, green, green, blue, blue green, blue, blue violet, or blue purple. Remember, I'm not picky. Violet or purple, red violet or red purple, red, okay, red orange, orange, yellow orange. Double check that everything is in the correct order, okay? If it's not, you will not receive full credit, okay? So, yellow should always be in between yellow orange and yellow green. Green should always be in between yellow green and blue green. Blue should always be in between blue green and blue violet, and so on and so forth. Now, I'd also like to say that we are really only barely scratching the surface about the color wheel. Okay, there's actually a lot of other things going on in this color wheel that we haven't gotten into yet, and we will later on in this quarter, such as warm colors and cool colors, such as complementary colors, okay, etc. And analogous colors, all right? All of these are terms that I teach in my class when I talk about color mixing, but I'm trying to keep it more simple since we're doing online learning. Now, I'm going to start off with paint. If you have a brush and a cup of water, I'm using this really old ice cream cup, Talente Gelato. It's delicious. If you've never had that, I do recommend it. And I'm starting off with 3 primary colors. Now I do have black and white in here, but I'm going to talk about that later in a different video. So when mixing a color, honestly, you guys, I'm not going to do this whole thing because it would take some time. Now I have other things I want to go over, but I would suggest going ahead and filling in all of your primary colors, okay? So if you, like, just before you do any mixing, go ahead and fill in all 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, okay? Pretend that I filled all of that in nice and neatly. Now let's talk about some color mixing basics. Whenever you mix a color, you want to start with your lightest color first. For some of my students, I know this is review, but it's a good thing to remember. So I like to start with a little blob of my lightest color, which in this scenario is always going to be yellow. So let's try to do some greens, okay? So I've got my yellow. Notice I'm mixing my brush. I'm also using a paper towel, and I'm just gently dabbing or squeezing the water. I'm not pulling on my bristles because I don't want them to fall out. Okay, we want to take care of our art materials. They're not cheap. Then I like to start with about a half of a brush filled up here. You can see that of my blue. I always kind of refer to color mixing as cooking, like cooking. You can always darken something up, but it's really hard to make something lighter. I made a pretty good green on that first attempt. So like when I cook, okay, I can always add more salt or add more spice, but if I make something too spicy or too salty, it's really hard to kind of take that away. So when I'm painting, I'm using both sides of my brush. Okay, I'm going to have to make a little bit more here. I also want to point out that I mixed my colors with paint, or whether you made your own paint or you're using paint you have. I'm mixing my colors on a different palette than actually on my color wheel. Okay, I'm going to make some more orange or some more green here. So I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. first, this is my palette, so I can kind of mix colors as I see fit. But second, I don't want to make my actual painting here, my color wheel, really messy. So I want to mix it on a separate palette, okay? I'm also trying to stay as neatly in the lines as possible as I'm making my color wheel, and I'm using long brush strokes kind of going in one direction, okay? Boom, I just made a beautiful green, okay? And that's really the basics of painting. So just to review, all right, start with your lightest color first, okay? Then add about a half a brush full of your next darker color and mix it up. And you can see how much just that little bit of red totally transformed, right, my yellow there into this beautiful pumpkin-y orange. So when you mix a tertiary color, okay, that third set after you start getting in your primary and secondary colors, students always ask me, is this the right color? I always tell students, trust your instinct, okay? Trust your gut. You know, does it look more yellow than the orange? Then yeah, you made the right color. Another thing I do is after I've mixed my perfect orange, I'll add in a whole bunch of yellow to that orange. Or I'll add in a whole bunch of red. Ooh, I'm making a mess on this because I'm putting paint down, my paint palette on this because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. But I am mixing a whole bunch of yellow, and now I can see a really nice transition between my yellow orange and my orange here. I could do the same thing for that green as well. Okay, I kind of already did it here. I can mix here more yellow, and now I have a nice kind of yellowy green. Okay, so obviously with my red orange, I would want more red mixed with up, etc. and etc. All right, now again, I'm not going to go through this whole color wheel. Okay, imagine there's probably other YouTubers who have completed an entire color wheel if you're really interested in watching them. But really, I'd like you to try it on your own. If you noticed in last week's work, I've been giving feedback when I can. Okay, and I'm trying to give y'all feedback just so you improve. Remember, so far we're only doing some formative things before we get to one of our first summatives when we come back from break. Okay, so that's how you would utilize paint, whether it's acrylic or tempera, or some watercolors work as well. Okay, except with watercolor, you just have to use a bit more water, or if you're using your homemade paint on a piece of paper from the flower and the food coloring, that could work as well. Now, moving on, I'd like to share with you all a colored pencil color wheel. This is all done in colored pencil, okay? And I want to show you that even colored pencils, yes, I know you have an orange colored pencil and you are welcome to use those, okay? But I want you to maybe even try. So if you notice here, if I mix this yellow, I'm pushing pretty firmly with my yellow, so a really, nice bright area pops up. Now I'm going to try to mix a little bit of my blue on top of that, and look what happens. I'm going to try to zoom in on that so you can kind of see. But if you notice, there we go, that my yellow has started to transform into a really nice green. So I used a lot more of my yellow, kind of blend that in, okay, kind of starting than my blue, and I'm pushing firmer with my yellow colored pencil than I am with my blue. But I just made it green without actually having green. I mixed yellow and blue together, okay? You know, same thing with my red. I'll show you. I'll make an orange here. I'm pressing firmly with my red or my yellow color pencil. Now I'm going to add in a bit of red, very lightly, very gentle. Sorry, I'm having focus issues tonight with these document cameras. but it is transforming into an orange. Okay, so for some of your colors in your color wheel, you could mix your colored pencils and it would look fabulous. Okay, and here's a great example of a color wheel using colored pencil. Okay, and then finally, I'd like to show you here with crayons as well that you can do the same kind of idea. Okay, look, I got the jumbo crayons because they're my daughter's. All right, but I can do the same idea where I'm mixing my yellow. Okay, and I'm going to lightly start to blend the red on top of that. All right, and it is going to transform this into an orange. The wax can kind of mix together to create those colors. All right, so that's something that you can do even if you're using some of these materials where I know, look, I've got a 50 pack of colored pencil. I'm confident I could find all the colors in the color wheel. All right, but I want you to try to mix the colors yourself for some of them at least. Okay, like I just kind of made a nice green mixing the blue and the red. I'm doing what we can, guys. All right, so once again, you want to make sure that you're doing your color wheel in the correct order, okay, and that you are mixing your color wheel in the correct order, and that no matter what material you're using, you're taking your time and you're having fun, and that you're mixing things correctly. Okay, and I'm trying to give you a lot of variety because I know we all have a lot of different types of materials at home. Okay, look out for my bonus video on how to make value using black and white with your colors. Okay.